Okay. The thing's green. We're live. And we're green. Hopefully we stay green for the next...
Oh, and it crash. Yeah.
I wouldn't really be that surprised.
Yeah.
I mean... This should work, right? Because I expected our shitty internet to be the problem, but...
Okay. Well, we'll see. Let's talk for a little bit.
Yeah.
In theory, if our internet is the issue, then this should fix it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because I've been doing tests this whole, pretty much since Saturday, and it doesn't seem to drop below, 70 megabits per second.
Okay.
And, it never gets below, 8 or 9 on the upload. So, tough to say. Because it always looks good before we're streaming.
Yeah, I mean, but when we're hitting 8 or 9... I mean, it would fluctuate. It wouldn't stay 8 or 9 the whole time. But when it was 8 or 9, we were fine, right?
Yeah, I think maybe because everything was on the Wi-Fi too.
Right.
Nobody's on a wired connection.
Yeah.
At all in the house.
Yeah.
So that's gonna change pretty soon. Now that we have I have a 5-port switch coming, so I'm gonna hook up these two consoles to wired, and then Dina's work computer to wired.
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
So, that'll take a lot of the load off of the Wi-Fi in the house. Hopefully. But anyway.
It's not going to make this shit slower, is it?
No. Okay. We're here. Looks like it's running good.
Yep, well, we'll just... Until it's not, at which point we will end the stream... destroy the laptop in anger.
It's been a while since we've been on stream as well, because we had a bye week, so
yeah, yep.
We're coming back off of that. So well, yeah.
Let's see. Looks like nobody's here yet. If you are here, say something in the chat. Otherwise, I guess we can just go, right?
Yep. Let's check this here.
I mean, OBS has given us a pretty constant green. We're above 4,000 here pretty consistently, so fuck it, yeah.
All right,
it'll be fine. There's definitely gonna be no problems. Oh shit, we're below third. Oh, okay. Week 7 results. It's been a while since we've seen some of these games. I don't remember everything about all of them, but
I try to rewatch a couple right now. So
I watched a few today.
Yeah.
This first one we should remember pretty good.
Yeah, because it was played recently too. That helps.
I mean, mostly because it's
us. Yeah. That's mostly the only team we care about here.
Hector's here. What's going on, Hector?
I guess I'll talk about it. It's fine.
Sure, yeah.
Mudkips versus us, the Burnouts. Started off kind of like last week, or the week before, whatever. Exactly what we did. We were just like, man, it'd be really good is if we just ran Belly Drum Magmortar again next to Clefable. And that worked out pretty good.
The teams were kind of similar.
Yeah, they were.
It seemed to work out pretty okay. They both have a really bulky S-tier physical sweeper.
That's weak to fire.
Right. Yeah, that's weak to fire. Yeah. They both have the Latios or Latias. They both have a Rotom, an A-tier Rotom for them.
One of the better Rotoms.
Except, I mean, we liked Rotom Heat here a little bit better because Magmortar can actually hit it for super effective damage, so that was cool. We also kind of figured, we change things up, every week, and we've been doing that for several seasons, so, who's going to expect us to do literally the same exact thing twice in a row? Who's that there in the bottom left? That's us, obviously. That's no one else.
Finally, I'm glad the seniors got a good win with Porygon Z. It just didn't, we'll get to that.
We're not far off. We'll get there soon.
But I agree with what we were kind of talking about. It is we're known to not bring the same thing twice. We try our best to try and find anything that we feel we might have an advantage with and bring it. So that's why we prefer versatility in a lot of our Pokemon. It helps a lot with it helps a lot, and we figured nobody would ever suspect us running the same thing twice because we just don't do that. And so that changed it up a little bit.
But now we do that.
We're running the same thing twice. But it was a good rematch versus the Mudkips, the finals rematch. We did have to land a few Sings that came to be pretty crucial, mainly because we found out later that they had Haze. We figured for sure if they had Haze, they were going to click it within the first 2 turns, and
I'm still shocked they didn't.
They did it. So after the second turn, when they just didn't click it, we were like, oh, for sure they don't have it.
Yeah.
We'll just burn down that side. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. And then by the time the Regigeezers woke up, it was out of Trick Room, and he really couldn't do anything, and we just blew it up the next turn. So it was kind of rough. They really couldn't recover after that. The Sings, Matt kind of mentioned it in our team building. He was just saying that the Clefable really wasn't threatened by a lot of stuff, and we may not necessarily need to redirect a lot of things.
It was more the Magmortar that wasn't threatened, because the Clefable's obviously there to redirect stuff away from the Magmortar. So if we're kind of feeling like, well, nothing is really fucking with Magmortar anyway, we can just click Sing because we don't have anything better to do. And that's one of the beautiful things about running a high risk, high reward move on a Pokemon that is sometimes at risk of just sitting there doing nothing. If for those of you who were here last season, it's a lot like that Gastrodon Fissure that Dina and Terran were running against doesn't click. Gastrodon's not the most offensive Pokemon ever, but if you can just toss Fissure on there, and you don't have anything better to click, that might win you a game.
Yep. So that's more or less the situation that we were put in. We ended up clicking it 4 times, twice into a slot that already had a Pokemon sleeping because we just kind of didn't really have anything left to click.
Yeah, we were just blowing up the other side, and we figured, if they're trying to get the horse in Trick Room, because it was on the same side as the Regigeezers, and we were just blowing up the other side, so we were just click and Sing into the Regigeezers. Like, if they want to switch it out, then we force them to risk getting put to sleep immediately. So, and it wasn't. I don't know. Shannon said something about winning off of like a 1 in 250 chance or something like that. I did the math on this shit. It was more like 1 in 10. If you combine the odds of hitting a Sing and then hitting another Sing, and then getting a 3-turn sleep, it's about 1 in 10 for that to happen. Which 9 out of 10 times that doesn't happen. Yeah. But it wasn't some super crazy fluke. 10% happens.
Yeah, and honestly, more what the Magmortar was gonna do. Not to go too much into this, but more just kind of
moved at all. I think it was just switching around, so we didn't even do anything with them. So the Magmortar was able to blow shit up, and then Keldeo Zarude came in. Good combo.
So I believe now the Mudkips are 3-3,
3-4,
3-4. Oh, they haven't had a bye week yet. Their bye week is this week.
Yes.
The Mudkips are 3-4 now, and we're 4-2. So I believe we moved into the second slot in Sword Division, or the second seed in Sword Division now. So had a slow start, but we're on our way back. And after that, we had probably one of the better games this week. There was 2 games that really stood out to me, and the Drillers versus the Wailords were definitely one of the better played games. Unfortunately, just the timer is it. It's one of the things that there's a couple games in here that maybe if there was only a few more minutes, it would have been fantastic to get like a time, like the game to play out a little bit. Particularly, I'll go ahead and name a few. The Drillers and the Wailords, I felt like still had some game left in there. I think that the Spammers and the Regigeezers still had a little bit of a game left in there.
Yeah.
The Doesn't Click versus the Jurors, obviously there was some game left there.
It was a tiny bit, but it was a crucial bit.
It was still a little bit of game that still needed to be played.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe our game went to time, but I mean that one was more or less it's the same thing with Doesn't Click and the Jurors, but it wasn't as like game changing.
Yeah, I mean we still would have won.
Yeah, but the Drillers and the Wailords, man, just so much really good prep coming out from both teams. Like you just saw it all over the place. You know from the get go, I believe they went with like a Trick Room mode. The Wailords, I should say, went for a Trick Room mode with like a Bronzong. And then had like Araquanid come in, just set up the Trick Room, and then I believe the Drillers had Aerodactyl and Surfetched or something like that. Yeah. Switched out the Aerodactyl for the Fungus because they figured, hey, we gotta make sure that we're gonna function in Trick Room. The Trick Room setup was very apparent, and then the Trick Room gets set up. The Fungus goes for a Spore into the Araquanid. Boom, safety goggles. It's like.
Before that happened, I was actually kind of surprised. Like, I get that they wanted to leave Incineroar on the field to fake out because maybe Aerodactyl was going to taunt. Yeah. But, like, that's more. I was going to say I'm surprised they let the Incineroar go down there because the close combat was right there in their face.
It was inner focus, too, so it didn't get intimidated.
Well, Scrappy.
Or, I'm sorry, Scrappy.
But yeah. I mean, I guess maybe that's more just... The credit should be placed more on the Drillers there for that lead and at least threatening that. So it's maybe they even did have taunt on the Aerodactyl. I know it switched out, but they would have. They're kind of threatening like, hey, we either taunt your Bronzong or we kill your Incineroar. Pick one.
Yeah, true.
At least that's what they're threatening. They of course switched the Aerodactyl out, but worked out for them. But yeah, so safety goggles on the Spider was very good.
And then not only safety goggles on the Spider, but safeguard on the Bronzong.
Yeah,
like
because you know like the Spider's the more immediate threat, so typically that's the one that's going to get hit by the Spore. So you can, if you're depending on that happening, and then you safeguard the same turn, it doesn't really matter that Fungus is slower. It's going to Spore you first in Trick Room. If you're if the threatening thing that's baiting out the Spore onto it is what's getting targeted there, the safeguard works.
Yeah, and it was really good the way we were kind of talking about this earlier. The Drillers did a fantastic job of stalling out the Trick Room because essentially the first couple of turns, the Wailords got everything they wanted, like down to the skitter smack on the switching into the Duraludon, like. They were getting everything that they wanted. They got the safeguard up. The Spore went in onto the safety goggles Pokemon. Maybe they wanted
Incineroar,
but maybe that's a sacrifice that they felt that they were comfortable making.
Yeah.
We've done that before. We're like, just let this Pokemon die if we can bring it in, and
Didn't seem worth it though to me anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe they were thinking in the moment this is worth it. We're willing to do that.
Yeah.
Didn't seem worth it to me.
So. I thought that it was very interesting that the Wailords essentially got everything that they wanted, and the Drillers were able to play out of that. And I felt this is like a really good game to kind of see some of the techs that you need to bring out to beat some of these good teams. One of the other techs that I saw that I was talking about is the Charm on the Arcanine.
Ooh.
Fantastic. Because okay, we can't burn this Araquanid, so we're not going to be able to neuter it in the typical way, so Will-O-Wisp isn't going to work. You know what, let's just run Charm. Let's just charm it, and we're totally
we can charm Incineroar too.
Yep, charm the Incineroar, exactly. So there's a lot of things that you can do with that. They showed with that Arcanine. They ran Flamethrower because the Wailords have been known to run like body press stuff on the Bronzong. So this is the second time that they've ran like a special Arcanine, going like, you know what, let's not try and run Flare Blitz on it, the typical physical set that you might see. Special coverage is better on this. Let's see a couple of good moves that we can fit on there and really like make the set our own. And then the Wailords are doing the same thing. They had the late game Nihilego, which was like, ended up doing really well after it got out of Trick Room. just really good play just overall by.
But then the Arcanine bulldozed
it, and then it had Charty Berry, and just like
the Charty Berry bulldoze I really liked.
Yeah,
and I think on that turn when they were going for bulldoze, the Nihilego ended up killing the Sirfetch'd. I suspect they were probably doubling it with the Arcanine and the Sirfetch'd.
Yeah,
just because they were assuming, all right, it's gonna kill one of us, the other one can help deal with it.
Yeah.
So we either bulldoze it or, probably a close combat so they don't have to miss Steel Wing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so which I think if that's what they were going for, great play.
I think the Charm, too, was also a really good call on their end with the Arcanine.
Yeah.
Because it also helped kind of deal with something that we've seen from the Wailords a lot, which was Dragon Dance Flygon. It's a set that the Wailords, their team building is very, very interesting. We've kind of discussed this a little bit before. They have key Pokemon that they like to bring on a week-to-week basis. They feel that the sets are solid, don't really need to be altered that much because the composition of the team kind of calls for certain sets. And then there are other sets that they take, like the Bronzong this week, where they ran the Heat Proof, where they ran the Colbur Berry, Safeguard, all these moves that were tailor-made to prep for this particular matchup. And you're seeing that out of a couple other like Pokemon that they'll have. They'll take two, maybe half of their team, pull them out, completely reconfigure the moveset to the matchup, inject them into their existing team, and it works perfectly every time. Mm-hmm. Black Sludge and Nihilego is something that it seems...
I still don't get why that's there.
But it's there consistently, and it seems to be doing well for them. I don't know either.
Well, it's doing well because Nihilego's good, not because Black Sludge is good.
But normally you're used to like maybe prepping for a Power Herb, Nihilego. Not seeing it. I guess they feel that they don't need it.
We may have seen it like once, but yeah most of the time they're just slapping Black Sludge on it.
The Bulus seems to vary on a week-to-week basis. They like to run like the lefty subset a lot of the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're going to bring in because we've seen different sets out of it too. So I think that their team building is very interesting because they have like a great core that they can consistently build stuff with. And inject little pieces in there to kind of like bolster the matchup. And then the Drillers almost take a completely different approach, it seems like, on a week-to-week basis, where they deconstruct their entire team, look at what needs to be done, build it up from the bottom up, and tailor-make everything that they're doing for the team. And it's working out fantastic for them. They're undefeated right now. So can't really argue one way or the other because I feel Team Pussy, the other team that's undefeated right now, has their style a little bit more like the Wailords. They have a couple of Mons that they have certain fondness for in their particular sets, and then everything else they kind of tailor make it to the team that they have or to the matchup that they're going up against. So I thought unfortunately this ended up going to time. I feel that the Drillers were in a really good position though overall, but it just sucks because I think it ended up 2-3 or something, 3-2 or something like that. It was still
5-3
or 5-3. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So it was the Wailords had already had a lot of their resources depleted health wise, so there wasn't a lot that there weren't a lot more hits that they were going to have to be able to take. But it's just disappointing to see a game that had so much more left to be played, that was being played fantastically, literally from turn one all the way to the end.
I don't think there was that much more.
Yeah, but I just would have liked to see the end.
I think that the Duraludon really had the Wailords pinned, and they had also predicted the Araquanid to switch out into the Flygon. So even though they saw safety goggles, they spored it.
Oh yeah,
they spored the Araquanid slot as it switched into the Flygon because they figured Duraludon's really threatening. Spider's not doing anything here. They probably want to switch in the Flygon, right? So and you don't really lose anything from that because they were going for a flash cannon on Bulu anyway. And Bulu wasn't really that threatening, so I don't think they needed to sludge bomb it. So it was there were several calls like that just made me really, really like the Drillers' play here. But that, I think, since the Duraludon had the Blue Nihilego side, I think those were the two left alive on that side. Or no, maybe Nihilego was dead. Because they only had three left. They had the Spider and Flygon and Bulu. So Duraludon pretty much had the Bulu pinned, and then they really only went for a Draco Meteor onto Flygon that last turn because they knew it was the last turn and they wanted to pick up a KO. Oh no, so Nihilego was still alive, but yeah, the Duraludon just had those guys pinned. So it seemed like a pretty, not a super straightforward end game, but I think it was clear who was going to win if there was no timer. But yeah, I really like the Drillers' play here, the decision making during the game, and the Arcanine especially. It seems like the quality of team prep on the Arcanine on the Drillers' side, and for the Trick Room mode on the Wailords' side, I think are both very top tier prep. I like that stuff a lot. Anything more to say about that one?
No, I thought it was, like I said, probably one of the better games this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what you're gonna get when you get two of the top tier teams going up against each other. Absolutely. So it didn't disappoint. It was a very high quality match, as we would expect from a pair of teams like this. Next up, we got the Sadistic Seniors versus the darn Heckin Delibirds. This one was a little bit weird from the Delibirds. Yeah. Especially because of the way that they led and how different it was from their usual leads. Most of the time they go with something a little bit more disruptive to slow down the pace of the game. They were talking a little bit before the match, and they felt like they didn't really have what it took to do that this time because the Seniors team is so full of these massive threats. And I don't even remember exactly what they led with.
Archeops.
Oh yeah, the Archeops and the Nidoking.
Nidoking.
They were trying to go for a Tailwind, and the
Starmie just put down so much pressure with the Icy Wind.
Yeah, they led this with the Starmie and the Porygon, and I heard the Delibirds say in their commentary, or rather, they were talking about what decision to make, and they mentioned, like, we really need to get Tailwind up. What if they just go for Icy Wind and, like, Max Strike into the Archeops? And I think one of them said, like, well, they're not going to... if they're going to Max Strike anything, it's going to be into the Nidoking, so we just protect Nidoking and we can Tailwind. We're okay risking that. And then the Seniors went for Icy Wind and killed the Archeops!
Yeah.
Oh my god! And then the next turn, they just went for a Max Strike into the Nidoking. While the War Turtle ended up faking out instead of going for Follow Me, which was unfortunate. They switched into Clef too. Right, and then the third turn, the Porygon got another KO onto the War Turtle. So this was, I think.
Question: do you think that they needed the Helping Hand to knock that War Turtle out?
That was.
They were next to the Entei. The Entei had the opportunity to max, which it did. It ended up going for the max Knuckle into the Porygon slot that turn.
No, I think it Quaked first. I think the Knuckle came second.
Well, either way, the Knuckle came in that turn, and I thought it was interesting that that they decided to Helping Hand when, like, a Follow Me would have been, excellent, because they took half health. It was like a half health hit onto the Porygon Z, but they went for the Helping Hand.
Do you want to pull it up?
No, I just watched it. I mean, we can, okay. But I know that's what happened. It might not have been the first turn they Dynamaxed, but that turn, it was War Turtle and Entei. The Entei max knuckled into the Porygon Z, but the Porygon Z Helping Hand.
Max Speed F, like live to strike. Okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I would probably expect it to, I guess. But at the same time, like, I don't really know my War Turtle calcs.
Yeah, that's it's tough for me to, like, say for sure. I thought, with Porygon Z, you kind of always feel like a Helping Hand into something is overkill. But when you're playing, like, in draft, it's so easy to calc for that on particular Pokemon. So
it probably, like, it really should have been a super specially defensive War Turtle, right?
That would have been the proper way to build it, in my opinion, especially in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little bit awkward going up against a Dracozolt, but like a Hustle Max Lightning, you're probably not living that, even if you're max defense anyway. Yeah. So, I probably was necessary, I guess, but it really just depends on how they built it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then the Entei kind of just
Almost
it
brought
was
him back.
Yeah, it was sort of just Entei versus the world, and based on how the seniors played, if the Delibirds had like made the right call on a couple of different turns, they might have been able to win. It was a little bit weird with the Darmanitan in the back.
Yeah, they needed to make like 9 right calls in a row, and they made like 5.
Yeah,
5. They made like 5, 6. Like they almost got there. So I want to give them credit for that, because it almost looked like, oh man, this is gonna be a dirty Porygon Z sweep, and because they got the nasty plot up, and it got really weird there for a second, and it seemed like they were gonna pull it back. But yeah, I would say like if they needed 9 to good decisions, they probably made like 7 of them. It looks like we're dropping down in the lag a little bit.
Well, the number's okay. Oh, that's a 0. That's not okay. Well, when it comes back up, we'll let the people know to tell us how it's. Oh, okay. No, Jesus. Okay. Well, we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
It's better than it was still.
Yeah. Maybe just a quick lag spike, it looks like.
Yeah, if you guys are noticing any lag or anything of the sort, any choppiness, any skipping around, whatever, let us know as usual. Yeah, it only dipped for a brief moment, but I think one of the key moments where the Delibirds kind of went wrong was in the mid game, at least with their Entei, was not going for a coaching onto the Entei. There was a turn. I don't remember what they did. They went for one coaching, but the Virizion was still on the field for a turn before that. I don't remember exactly what they did, but if they had gone for 2 coachings instead of 1, that might have done it.
Yeah.
Because then that would enable them to one-shot the Starmie with extreme speed, I think. Maybe also the Darmanitan.
It would have been close.
Yeah. And even against like a +2 Corviknight, I wonder if Sacred Fire would have actually been
It was
enough.
hitting so hard, I was wondering if it was banned. Like, I know, like, +1.
The Entei?
Yeah.
No, it was AV.
No, I know.
okay.
I know it was. But, like, when it came out of the Dynamax, it went for 3 extreme speeds in a row.
Oh, okay.
And the damage that was coming out...
Oh, you were watching the senior side.
Yeah, so I was watching the senior side.
Okay, I was watching the other side.
Yeah, I wasn't watching the other side. So the damage that was coming out, I was like, oh my god, at +1, it's doing almost close to 80%, 90% with extreme speed. Like, that is ridiculous. This has to be banned +1. And then it came out again, and then it came out again, and I'm like, and then they Sacred Fired the Corviknight. I was like, okay. But yeah, it was a good match. These are also 2 teams that I feel are very good as well. They're like the high to high tier ish. The seniors have had a rough year this year, but we know that they're a good team. So they came up with the win this time. Yeah. But if I were the Delibirds, I mean, it's a tough matchup. Obviously, you said that they talked about it. I looked at it on paper. It really was a tough matchup for them.
Yeah.
And Entei versus the world, and Entei almost brought it back. Yeah. Like, I think that's really all you can ask for. So
yeah, I mean, it was cool to see. So yeah, I liked this match, even though the beginning seemed to be kind of just a classic case of like, we let Porygon do what it wants to do. Because that kind of if that didn't happen as easily as it happened for the seniors, they would have had a much tougher time dealing with that Entei in the late game. If Entei still had a partner left or something, or didn't have as much damage on it, or would have had an easier time bringing it back. So next up we have the Dark Web Porygons versus the Rainbow Raiders. This one did not get recorded. We really don't know anything about this match. There seemed to have been some weird
paralysis stuff.
Yes, there was some weird luck. It was more than just Paras, but that Paras were, I think, were a big part of it. I don't remember the exact details, but if that's the case, then Raiders perhaps ended up losing when maybe most of the time they win. I also understand that when you still have Pokemon left, we basically just treat it like all those Pokemon you have left are dead, and if you have if you're at 5-2 and you're the 2 and you forfeit, that just becomes a 5-0 loss instead of a 5-2. You can't do that. It just hurts your differential for no reason. Play it out and try to take as many KOs and eat as few KOs as possible. Play for differential. Do not forfeit. Play for differential.
Yes.
So that's all we can really say about this one because we didn't end up seeing it. But we've got Shield Division. We got Team Pussy and the New England Patrats. This one, to me, seemed pretty straightforward.
I remember, I mean, yeah, it was, for the most part, Scarf Diggers being next to Cinderace. Cinderace maxed, started knocking stuff out. It did get a little bit interesting, I feel, when the Thundurus maxed. I felt like it could get rolling a little bit because it did knock out. The Urshifu was able to knock out and put pressure down with Sucker Punch, knocked out the Cinderace, and then kind of allowed the Thundurus to kind of start getting boosts and stuff like that. But then the Celesteela kind of came in and just put a nix to all of that. The Celesteela next to Togedemaru, the Togedemaru able to protect the Celesteela from max lightning strikes. They did go for I think it was banded Sucker Punch into the Togedemaru, but it was sashed, so kept the lightning rod on the field. They were forced to click Airstream anyway because they probably figured that it was sashed, but it was one of those things where the Togedemaru being there next to the Celesteela really kind of hurt the momentum that they were kind of starting to gain. And then what you saw was the Urshifu went down, that whole side was eliminated, and it was Thundurus versus the world. And then they withdrew it from Dynamax, and it's
which
like,
was kind of a fair play because Trick Room was up and they weren't really...
Well, Trick Room wasn't up yet. The Hatterene was out and threatening Trick Room, but they actually ended up Psychicking the slot. Because they switched in the Steelix, it got Psychicked, and then it got basically knocked out from like a Mystical Fire plus, I forget another move.
I thought Trick Room had already gone up.
No, they never even I don't even think they put it up. Like, at all.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Like, maybe in the late game, but no. They, like, when it knocked out the Thundurus, they didn't need it.
I thought that was the
Steelix, yeah.
I thought that was the whole reason that Thundurus switched out.
No. It looked like it was going to get set up, but it never got set up.
Well, in any case, I think this just felt to me like a case of the Patrats team not having the offense to really do much, because the only time they were actually doing damage was when they had the Urshifu Thundurus out.
Yeah,
that's still kind of the only part of their team that's like really effective.
Yeah.
They had their Trick Room mode up front with the Goth and the Lapras and the Steelix. Just wasn't putting out enough offense, and the Cinderace and the Diggersby and the Togedemaru just kind of were allowed to do whatever. And then finally you got Diggersby and Thundurus coming out, took a couple of KO'd the Cinderace and the Togedemaru, and then the Thundurus was out, and the Celesteela and Hatterene were able to just do whatever they wanted, and then just because there was kind of nothing left once the Urshifu was gone. I mean, like the Steelix, the Steelix couldn't even it can't do anything. Like the only thing it's really good for is like Iron Defense body press stuff. Did you see the Iron Head on the hat? It was a Life Orb hat. It wasn't even Babiri Berry. It was just a Life Orb hat. And Steelix's stab Iron Head couldn't kill it.
Yeah.
That's just sad.
Yeah, and there's really nothing left to say about it. I mean, but they have a top heavy team. They've been trying to work around it. Silvally was something that I feel that like it's an attempt to try and patch up several holes, but the problem is that now they only have one mediocre Pokemon.
Yeah, it's just not enough. You need
and
to
it just got knocked out right away.
You need to restructure your draft. You have too many C's and D's, which are just like really lackluster. Like half of your team is from the C and D tier. You need to readjust to be a little bit more top heavy and get more into the B tier. And they just didn't do that. Because the Lapras and the Steelix are like almost essential parts of the team, and they're just not very good. And then you have at the bottom, you have like the Zorua and the Mawile and the Trapinch that are just like, they're not doing anything. Yeah. They might as well be E tiers because it would at least give you some more points to convert those C's into B's. Yeah.
So it's rough. We saw the Parish song go off, but immediately, it was a rough game.
Didn't matter.
Yeah. This was a case of one of the better teams in the league going against a team that's a little bit lower on the rankings. Yeah. And after that, we have the Spammers versus the Geezers. This was kind of another one of those games, but the Spammers have a good roster. They have a team that I feel can still do very well. They just have had really bad luck. A hard schedule as well.
And I feel like they actually did pretty well here. Like in a lot of spots in this game, I actually liked their play more than I liked the Geezers' play. I have to pee really bad. You can cover this one. I'll be right back. Also have a couple things to say about the Salamence.
What we saw right off the bat from the Geezers and the Spammers is we saw basically, ended in a 3-3 match overall. The Salamence came out, it put down the Intimidate. We saw, I believe it was a Weavile and I can't even remember. I think it was the Regigeezers. And the Regigeezers came out, it maxed right away. It started putting out some major damage, even on the Salamence that had maxed as well. Put it into the 2-hit KO range. And it was just a really slow playing game. The Max really didn't get either team really anything. We saw the Rillaboom come in later on, kind of threatening the Azumarill a little bit, and we just saw a lot of really defensive play just coming out across the board. You want to mention anything about the Salamence?
Yeah, why the fuck was it not Moxie?
I was gonna say that as well. The Intimidate really didn't do anything.
Yeah, dude. Okay, if it was Moxie, I think the Geezers probably just win.
Because then it just takes the KO and it just sweeps from there.
Because on turn 3, you're fast. They have Wormwind,
2 airstreams up, but then
on turn 3 you're faster than the Regieleki. Mm-hmm. I did some calcs. Unless it's like a super bulky Regieleki, a +1 Life Orb Max Wormwind will kill a Dynamax Regieleki.
Yeah.
Oh God, what? Like if you're gonna max it turn 1, you guys, God, put Moxie on it. If that's your max Airstream Sweeper, Moxie. What are you doing?
I found that interesting.
It was heartbreaking.
That their game plan right off the bat was to max the Salamence on turn 1. They had the Mr. Mime there set up. It looked great on paper, and they just didn't go for it. I saw that the Weavile, ended up having the Icicle Crash at the very end. They swapped out the Goodra into the Musharna, and it only landed 2 of the 3. Triple Axles.
Yeah,
and then the knockoff, which activated the Cobra Berry, which was like really mitigated damage overall. I thought it was really, really just rough, just in general, to see that one miss and then the game end. And I was wondering, and I asked you, do you think Icicle Crash might have had the damage to matter? Because the HP was really close. I also wonder if moves like Triple Axle, if you're forced to put a move like Triple Axle onto Weavile, the same with when I believe it was early Series 5, when people were using Dual Wing Beak Talonflame to knock out Whimsicott before it could do anything. I still felt that putting some type of flying stab on that Pokemon might have been beneficial, just because you don't want to miss those moves when you really need them to land. You know, if there's a Pokemon that has Sash on it and you need to break Sash and knock it out, and you want to make sure that you can take care of that in one move without letting it move, I completely understand the wanting to do that. That makes 100% sense to me. But I find it real tough that you don't make room to have like another ice stab that doesn't like, it's like, all right, we need to land an ice move and it's got to be this triple axle and we need to get all three of them to hit.
I wonder if they needed the triple axle in order to actually one-shot a bulky Goodra because they didn't have a damage boosting item.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Weavile can do some damage, but it's not, you know, it doesn't have, like, the highest base attack stat in the world. It's, I don't know, 120, I think? 125? You know, which is good, but like, I could see the spammers building their Goodra to live just a straight, you know, jolly Icicle Crash. Maybe the extra damage from the triple axle was necessary. And I don't know what other... They had the Geezers had Fake Out. They had Ice Shard, maybe. No, they had Icy Wind. And then something else. I don't remember what the last move was. Or was it Ice Shard? Fuck,
I thought they had like Knockoff 2 or something.
Maybe. I seem to remember it.
I thought it had a Dark type stab.
Maybe. I'm just gonna check real quick. We can keep talking.
But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where. It came down. It was 3-3. I think the Geezers had a pretty solid handle on the situation, but the spammers kind of played to their outs. They knew if we switch in and out, and we can kind of stay alive a little bit, mitigate some of the damage, and Goodra calcs are tough because it's bulky all around, and you can make it 7 ways different. You know. I feel that plus its coverage, it's one of the better Pokemon that you can definitely use in draft. So, but yeah, tough overall. Oops. Tough overall loss for the Geezers. Yeah, I think they're 3-3 now or 4-3.
3-3.
Yeah. So they started off real strong. They were 3-0. A little couple of stumbles on the way. They're still, in my opinion, a good team, one of the better teams in the league. But this loss was pretty tough. And for the spammers, now with both the spammers and the Porygons winning, there's no teams that haven't picked up a win yet. So all these teams, I felt like the spammers especially deserved a win. They've been playing relatively well, and you know, this was not an easy game on their schedule, but they were able to get out a win, even if it was a 3-3 at timer win. So.
I still think it's like if the rest of the game plays out, I think the Geezers probably end up winning. But at the same time, with the way the spammers played this time, I don't really feel too upset about them taking the win here. Yeah. They did really well. I mean, especially like when the Vikavolt was down to like the red, and it was obvious that the Goodra wanted to KO it. They had a turn where they just completely ignored it and doubled up on the Volcanion for the KO because I feel like they knew that timer was running down. They needed to start picking up KOs, and so I wasn't even sure if the double up there would actually KO because they used a combination of Dragon Pulse from the Goodra and High Jump Kick from the Cinderace.
Yeah, that was enough.
That was an excellent play, and I was not even like. I wouldn't have necessarily guessed that actually picks it up. So, because Volcanion is can be kind of a bulky bitch sometimes. Yeah. So, pretty good. Good game from the spammers. You know, it's a weird thing when games go to time like that, especially when it comes down to HP percentage. But I would have been pretty satisfied with this one going either way.
Yeah. Next, we had Doesn't Click versus the Jurors, or the Royal Jurors. This one was just a fantastic game overall.
It's more heartbreaking than anything.
Yeah, it you know, when you watch it, you definitely feel for the Jurors there. The Jurors started off with the Raichu Tapu Fini set. The Raichu, by the way, has been putting up so much work for them too. Really is showing like,
as it
why,
should. It's a great mod.
Why it's like a top tier a top A tier Pokemon, you know. But yeah, it was the discharge into the Tapu Fini, activated weakness policy, and then you saw the Dragapult, and I believe it was Toxtricity to come out. Amazing prep from Doesn't Click, because you saw right away they went for U-turn, or for max U-turn I should say, and they were able to bring it down to -1. And then you saw, okay, well that's fine. We made this Tapu Fini fast enough to knock out, or faster than this Toxtricity, and we just knocked that and I one-shot that. And
they were trying to snarl too, and just didn't happen because Toxtricity just went down to the geyser.
Mm-hmm. So, that ended up happening. Kind of forced them again to max Bug to bring them down to neutral. But even then, the Jurors were able to kind of put down a lot of damage continually just by having like rain set up and just laying down these water attacks. I believe they went for a max Starfall the next turn into the Dragapult.
Yeah,
still did a good amount of damage.
It did like 60-70%.
Yeah, and just overall, you like it kind of started going back because I believe did they end up saying Trick Room doesn't click?
No. Yeah, well, they brought in Aromatisse pretty soon after. Yeah, they did, because the Toxtricity side had Aromatisse and Urshifu on it.
Yeah.
So they brought in Aromatisse first.
Yeah. And one of the things that we saw was the Jurors were able to switch out the Tapu Fini and preserve it a little bit and still kind of maintain it when they came out of Trick Room, because the Scavalier had already obviously put down some decent damage. The Tapu Fini was out on the field, and then they were able to bring in the Drifblim in front of the Urshifu and just click Tailwind and Moonblast into it. The Urshifu.
Even before that, the play, I think it was the second to last turn of Trick Room, the play where they had Drifblim on the field and Misty Terrain had just expired.
Yeah.
So they switched the Fini back in so that the Misty Seed activated. The Escavalier's knockoff did less damage.
Yeah.
And then because of the special defense boost, it also survived the double up because it got hit with the Moonblast from the Aromatisse. And then it went for Phantom Force. Then it was the last turn of Trick Room, and it was protected because it was in that invulnerable state for the turn. And then it came, it did its damage, Trick Room ended, and then it was able to
set Tailwind
immediately.
Yeah. And then the Tailwind came in, was able to let Tapu Fini get a Moonblast onto the Urshifu, and then the Fini brought it down to about 60%-ish. And then I believe the Tapu Fini went for a Protect because it knew that, okay, your Focus Sash, the Urshifu showed Focus Sash, you're going to Protect here. We're in the first turn of Tailwind. We're fine. We can waste a Protect turn here. We have no problem doing that. So the Urshifu hit Detect. The Tapu Fini hit Protect. The Iron Head went into the Tapu Fini slot. Just null turn. And then the Urshifu went for another Protect. The Tapu Fini Moonblast. Boom, they got the Protect. Yeah. At that point, the Iron Head went in. Brought it down to about maybe 15 to 20%. That was Sucker Punch range. Sucker Punch was able to knock it out. But then, obviously, the Drifblim was able to they were able to pick off the side a little bit. And it came down to basically Victini came in, Heat Wave, knocked out everything, brought it down to basically the Volcarona versus just Victini and Serena. The Victini went for another Heat Wave, I believe it was, right? Brought it down to what? 60%, 55%? The Volcarona went for a Struggle Bug into it, brought down its special attack. At that point, the Jurors swapped out into the Serena. They had, I believe it was Scarf Victini. They let the Serena just faint, let the Victini come back in. They figured, all right, Heat Wave, single target, about 60% to you. We're going to hit you with this V-Create and
Blue Flare.
Blue Flare. And that should just end it. That's going to pretty much put it away. They got the Protect. They got the double Protect. Game went to time. Victini was lower. Game over. Doesn't Click wins. So, two game-winning double Protects for the Doesn't Click to pull off the victory. But yeah, it was a rough loss for the Jurors. I felt that both teams prepped really well. I think that's one of the reasons why I feel that it was one of the better games played, because it was very clear that Doesn't Click had their homework done on on the Jurors. They were expecting like a Victini mode to come out, or even the Tapu Fini, and the Jurors were like, okay, well, if we're going to kind of take advantage of this is kind of how we have to build stuff. This is how we're going to have to play it. And they played fantastically. Doesn't Click just played to their outs, and they got the win. So honestly, it's one of the reasons, if you want to know why we put the Jurors up, their team is fantastic, has a ton of versatility, and they're able to kind of slug it out with some of these better teams. It's just this season they just haven't been able to capitalize and get the wins.
Yeah, I think this game is the most emblematic of that for them, because they're playing one of the best teams in the league, and they played extremely well. If you go back and watch Doesn't Click's post-com, they will tell you that the Jurors out-prepped and outplayed them, which I think is completely fair. Especially, I felt that watching the match, live before I was listening to them talk about it even. But it's one of those, like we mentioned, if one of those double protects doesn't go off, Jurors almost guaranteed win the game. It's basically like they have to all they have to do is hit a blue flare, which with the victory star is 93% accurate. So it was basically a 1 in 9 shot for Doesn't Click to win, and they got it. And you could make a comparison between our game this week and their game, because that basically 1 in 10 shot allowed us to kind of steamroll through at least the first part of the game, and then that 1 in 9 shot allowed Doesn't Click to close it out for them. I think the difference here is that because those rolls went in Doesn't Click's favor in the late game, it was much clearer that if they don't get them, they 100% lose. For our game, it was more like, well, it happened in the beginning, so if something else played out differently, right? If they actually got the haze off, then like there's a lot of game that just plays out differently, and it's super difficult to know what happens. In this case, all of that other game had already been played, so different roles don't change that because it's happening afterwards. So it was heartbreaking to see that it was so clear in this particular case that if those rolls don't go Doesn't Click's way, 8 out of 9 times the Jurors win.
Yeah. But hey, that's a game that we played. Doesn't Click. They're 5-2 now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're proving to be one of the better teams in this league again. They're kind of like us in a couple of ways. They took losses early on, but they're still winning when they need to. But tough loss for the Jurors this week for sure. And then the Bulus versus the Mats. I watched this one at the very beginning of the week, I believe. Yeah,
I think this might have been the first game of the week that got played. This one was kind of nuts because the Mats just led with a straight imprison lead. I think they had some other things that they could have done with their lead. They led with the Gengar and the Gardevoir just went for imprison, and it had expanding force on it. Probably also had Trick Room on it. So it was a pretty safe way to stop the Runerigus lead from the Bulus. They led with Runerigus and the Togetic. So the Runerigus wasn't really able to do anything because it was I think it was clicking expanding force into the Gengar slot. And then they ended up maxing the Runerigus on turn Reuniclus. Why do they have to have such similar names? Reuniclus. They ended up maxing the Reuniclus on turn 2, which I think was... I don't know if I would say it was the main mistake, but it was one that they identified toward the end of the game, that they kind of figured they shouldn't have done that because they didn't really get a whole lot out of their max. They ended up bringing Gengar down to Sash, I think. They killed it with another max move, and then they went for a max overgrowth into the Indeedee's Protect, and it did basically nothing. And so they got some good damage out of it. They got rid of Indeedee's Psychic Terrain for that turn. but the mats were just able to. Was it 4? All right, you know what? I'm gonna keep saying Runerigas because fuck it. The Ben and Vichy were just able to. They were able to mitigate the max pretty well, and then they went for a late game max themselves. They waited quite a while before they ended up maxing the Blaziken in the end game, but in the mid game they were still able to put on enough pressure and do a lot of damage, even though they weren't maxing. Mostly due to the Regigeezers. It ended up doing like 80-90% to Blastoise and something else at the same time, I think. I don't remember what was next to it, but yeah, it was just able to do so much damage, and the Blaziken was just able to clean up pretty easily in the end. So I think it was expertly played by them. They did a good job. And
I believe the Bulus even said, too, that this was going to be a tough matchup for them regardless.
Yeah.
Even just on paper, and the fact that Ben and Vichy, they play so well, just they prep so well, they make sure, anything that they could use to their advantage, they're absolutely going to use it. So, tough loss for the Bulus, but, Mats are one of the better teams for sure. So.
Yeah, you can't kick yourself too hard for losing against them. So, which they're not. I mean, they did say, I think at the beginning of the match, they even said we're not expecting to win this one, but we're doing our best. So, which is fair. I think Vichy just got like 20th in the world in the Players Cup 4 online qualifier with Absol.
Yeah.
Did you see that shit? So, yeah, they're very good. Vichy's a fucking madman. No shame in losing to them. So,
and yes, Ben, we've been on the result for 56. We messed around for like 10-15 minutes. We kind of didn't do anything.
I mean, this is part of the course. Like, you have to understand that this is normal for us. We've been on this page for more than an hour before. Maybe we should just linger here for another minute and a half just so that we hit that 1 hour mark. Yeah, why not? I don't know, what else do we buys Potatoes and the Pixies. They are both, I think, 2 and 4, so unfortunately not getting an opportunity to start picking up wins here. Let's see, we're almost at 59 minutes. Porygons Z is our mascot for the our results page.
Because we finally didn't see a rain dance scarf Porygons Z.
Yeah, you're finally they finally the seniors used Porygons Z
Nasty Plot, Ice Beam.
Hey Dina, we did not say let's fly through these this time. We didn't. We got
a lot to go through.
Yeah, we didn't make any promises. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We're almost at the hour mark. Porygons Z, yeah, I actually did some good shit. Got 3 KOs on its 3 max turns as it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. You also got it perfectly in the corner where it's like it looks like it's like framing us.
Oh yeah,
like this. It's like this.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at Google Slides. So
yeah, best Google Slides, but not PowerPoint.
No, I'm terrible at PowerPoint. I'm just kidding. I'm a PowerPoint genius. I'm at least better than Dina at PowerPoint. That's for sure. Always have been.
Oh man, she's gonna murder you.
How is that different from? I mean, yeah, she's always gonna murder me. Who cares? All right, and 1 hour. All right,
let's move on past this.
Okay, week 7 transactions. We have not actually gotten a chance to talk about these too much prior to the stream. But
why don't you list them and then we'll talk about them?
Yeah, sure. You know what? No, we're gonna talk about them as I list them.
Okay.
Because I'm feeling combative.
Right.
So number 1, the Dark Web Porygons. They're dropping Kanto Persian, thank God, and Robot. Why did I write robot? Fuck it. Robot. They dropped Kanto Persian and Robot for a Alolan Persian and Kung Fu. That's not even autocorrect. That was just a typo. Dina, don't do that. It's working so well for once in our fucking lives. This I kind of like and I kind of hate. So I like that they restructured their draft, because last time they traded out their Duskull for the Eevee, and it looked like they were kind of restructuring to put 2 E tiers down there so they could switch their C to a B, which thank God is what they did. I just hate their B tier choice. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, so much of what Alolan Persian is doing, you can do with Grimmsnarl instead. There's even some, like, there's some differences in, like, they both have speed control. Like, the Persian has, like, Quash or Icy Wind, and the Grimmsnarl has Thunder Wave. The Persian also has, they have damage mitigation with, like, the Persian has Snarl, and it has Charm, and it has Parting Shot, whereas the Grimmsnarl is just using screens. Like, they have different stuff, but it's doing the same shit.
Yeah.
They're both just fast support dark types. Not that the Grimmsnarl is fast, but, prankster.
Yeah, I think we also saw this a couple of seasons back before we did these videos with Dina and Terran. Back then, they were the Russian assets, and they had Persian and Incineroar.
Yep.
And stuff like that looks good on paper, but then when you bring it into action, you find that your team as a whole is a lot more underwhelming. It may make certain parts of your prep easier because you're like, oh, now we can do this to dark types, But now you still fill 2 slots of essentially your 8, with something that they do the same thing. So
right, and there's maybe some merit in wanting to put the Persian next to a more offensive Grimmsnarl, but that's like, do you fill up a B tier slot just to do that? I don't really see that as being just as good as a lot of other things you could have put in that B tier slot. B tier's full of good shit. I don't think this is worth the slot when you have the Grimmsnarl there. There's just so many things like,
especially because they got Electabuzz too. Electabuzz was a good pick.
That was a good pick. That's good for their team. The Persian is just overlapping way too much with the Grimmsnarl.
Do you think it was worth it to drop a robot for Cupfu?
Yeah, they weren't using robot for anything anyway. It was kind of a bad mon. I mean, it's not even real. There's no Pokemon called robot, so like, why not just fucking get rid of it? But yeah, I also don't see them using offensive Grimmsnarl like much. I don't think we've seen them use it at all before. So I don't think this is a good pickup here. I like the restructuring of the draft. Don't like what they picked for their B tier.
Ben says, Vishy, do you want to pick up robot now? I want to see Vishy pick up robot and use it on his side, so that way there's no bluff, and you're like, no, the robot's coming. Yeah.
I also noticed that when the Bulus and the Mats were playing, the Bulus noticed that there was no bluff on Vishy's side. Ryan said something like, yeah, Vishy only has 3 Mons. Like, why are you confused by that? That's his thing. He does that every time. He just doesn't bring a bluff.
The one that wasn't on purpose was the Geezers versus the Spammers. The Spammers brought a level 60 Kangaskhan.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well. So it's like, well, guess what didn't come to the battle?
Yeah. Dina says she's just going to call it robot from now on. I mean, that's fine. You're probably not going to risk confusing anybody, because how often are you talking about Raboot anyway? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fuck it, it's robot. Robot's kind of a bad mon, so thank God it's not on the draft anymore. I also find it kind of funny that they were talking it up and it never hit the field even once, and then they traded it away. So, number 2, the Rainbow Raiders dropping Dragonite and Kanto Rapidash for Male Indeedee and Thievul. Okay. This is maybe kind of a dangerous direction to go, because you're dropping shit that I think is good for you, but this could work out.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. You're putting hyper offensive modes that need to be prepped for in a variance of different ways. The Thievul with the Unburdened Psychic Seed stuff, with access to stuff like Fake Tears. It could be pretty good. Fast foul play obviously is very good as well. Geez, I'm blanking on other stuff that it has. Does it get expanded? No.
Thievul, no.
No, but Scarf Male NDD with Thievul has been something that has done okay, not great, but okay.
Yeah.
Thievul has a pretty wide move pool, and it needs to be prepped for. So, yeah, I agree. It's dangerous because a team that has a lot of answers for everything that you have, you're just gonna. They're gonna stomp you. It's gonna be over, and you're not gonna be able to do anything about it. Teams that maybe they go, all right, they're gonna bring the colossal mode here, so we're gonna prep for the colossal, and then you see this, and it's like, oh well, we don't have an answer for it, so now we just lose. Yeah. So there are gonna be opportunities where you're gonna be able to do a litany of things. The key piece I feel that they have that's gonna really keep everything together is still the Togekiss. They need to. They need to figure out ways to make Togekiss the star of the show almost. And, like, not just Raiders. What's the real Pokemon? Yeah, I know that you guys are huge Inteleon fans. Ben says the Raiders only have one real Pokemon. Sad. Must be Inteleon because they're huge Inteleon fans.
No, that's probably Scraggy.
Scraggy? Yeah.
Scraggy's the only
real Pokemon that they have. You're right. But yeah, I think the Togekiss is really going to be the key to them doing any damage here. There are other offensive elements like the Colossal, like the Inteleon, like this Psychic Thievul mode that they have. I think can be very good in certain situations, but if I were them, I'd really be trying to figure out ways to like make the Togekiss shine either as like a very good support Pokemon that can be bulky and yawn stuff and put pressure down that way, or a redirector, or even like if you want to try and threaten some other stuff and have it come in like a late game weakness policy Dynamax. I feel that there's a lot of things that they can do. Now that they have other stuff that you need to prep for, and then the Togekiss is just kind of sitting off there on the side. So, while I do like their modes a lot, I do agree that like now you got rid of Dragonite, you got rid of Rapidash. That could be a little bit rough for your synergy.
Yeah. As
far as the synergy standpoint is concerned, but maybe your play style and everything benefits from the changes on the team. So
yeah, I mean, I did actually genuinely like the Rapidash on this team, and I also. The Dragonite allows for a lot of different combinations. Yeah. The inner focus with either Surf or Aqua Jet is obviously great next to Colossal. And then you have the potential for Ice Shard Inteleon into a more offensive weakness policy Dragonite.
Yeah.
You know, those are good options that you don't have anymore, but you've introduced an entirely new mode, which I don't know if we've seen in this league before, but it's got potential to be really good. Thievul is something that actually came out swinging in the other league I'm playing in. That it was on the same team as Tapu Koko, so functioned a little bit differently, but still mostly the same. It's got a lot of good support stuff and I think a lot of people might be. It might seem underwhelming on paper, but if you can use it right. I think it's going to be really, really powerful. It's got a lot of good, a lot of the typical like dark type support moves, like the fake tiers you said, Snarl and Taunt, Foul Play, Parting Shot. Not that Foul Play is a support move.
Incredibly fast Snarl and incredibly fast Taunt.
Yeah, and Parting Shot too. Parting Shot's big. You're going to lose your Unburden boost if you do that, but like. You can potentially Parting Shot beforehand, and it still has a decent speed stat without Unburden. So like, you can still make that work. There's definitely some stuff you can do here. We have the only other time we've seen Thievul in this league was last season when the Lava Ridge Raiders picked it, but they didn't exactly
had a terrain setter.
No, they didn't have the team for it, and they kind of sucked shit anyway. So, I think it's going to do much better on the Rainbow Raiders than the Lava Ridge Raiders, I'll tell you that.
Next, we have probably the most interesting transaction that happened this week. A U-tier was picked.
First time since Season 3.
Mm-hmm. Genesect and Milotic for Palkia and Munchlax. Honestly, the Genesect was underwhelming for them. The Milotic was underwhelming for them. You know, they did good.
Did a little bit better than Genesect
did, but I like the direction that the team is going in. Munchlax is not terrible. We noticed. We've done okay with it before. It gives you a decent Trick Room mode here. I think the key thing that they have is the combination of like the Mudsdale Lucario, which they made transactions for earlier in the season.
Yeah.
That really makes this Palkia stuff look a lot better because it protects you a little bit more from electric types. You have a redirector that you can redirect that you can get stuff into. So I think stuff like that can work out in your favor. I understand Palkia isn't weak to electric, but still, like when you have a water type like that, it's good just in general. You're starting to see a little bit more offense coming out from them now. Mm-hmm. That's not just the two Pokemon that they have. Lucario can also be ran offensively. Now Munchlax, I understand it's an E tier, but D tier, sorry. But still, like it serves a purpose. All you have to do is bring it once. We know this. Bring it once. Let Belly Drum get set up and start knocking stuff out. And now it's like, oh, okay, So I do think the move was for the better.
It's risky,
but it's risky. Yeah, exactly. Particularly because now I only see one Pokemon here that is gonna Dynamax on a consistent basis, and that's Mudsdale. So if you're playing. If you're prepping against this team, you go, okay, well, we have to prep for the Mudsdale stuff, and then it gets beat up too. So like beat up stamina stuff can, with an assault vest, launching max quakes and max steel spikes can be a real easy way for the Mudsdale to set up. It also has own tempo for the self swagger stuff. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this team plays out. The Palkia, even though it can't Dynamax, I feel that it is one of the more interesting Pokemon that you can have on your team that's a U tier because it hits like a truck, first of all, but also the ability to set Trick Room. It's bulky Trick Room setter.
Great defensive typing.
I think just in general, it can. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Its move pool is really good.
It has such a ridiculous amount of coverage.
Yeah.
Like, it has I think it has Thunderbolts, got, Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Aura Sphere, Earth Power, Power Gem. It's got a lot of shit.
Yeah, and then not to mention if you want to, run the Spatial Rend stuff, that's a strong, Dragon type move that not a lot of Pokemon get. They're resigned to continue running Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, mm-hmm. stuff like that. So I do think that it can be a benefit for their team. Particularly because a lot of these dragon types that are around right now, they also, I'm sorry, not dragon type, these like steel types and stuff like that kind of resist dragon. A lot of them get hit neutrally or super effective by water, mm-hmm. particularly in this league. I think the only one that doesn't is like the Kartana on the mats.
Yeah,
but
you get Flamethrower.
Yeah, like you get ridiculous coverage. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, definitely.
Also, it's a water type that can learn fire moves, and it still doesn't get Scald. Someone explain that to me.
I mean...
Whatever.
Yeah. If they gave Rotom Scald, Rotom Wash. I get it. I get it.
Please Dynamax Munchlax. We couldn't make it work because we were, trying to keep our 1 seed, but... it's a little too risky, but
swept in the late game.
Yeah. All right. So that's interesting pair of transactions there. I'm glad they did it. Like if only to see a U tier again, because I feel like people have been gravitating away from them because because most of them in season 3 didn't do so well. Some did, but they were a little bit awkward to use, and I I want to see people try now that we got a bunch of these big legendaries back from Crown Tundra. The Pixies are the only ones doing it, so
yeah.
I like seeing it. Next up, the St. Louis Bulus. They drop Manectric for the Dusk Lycanroc. I think this is fantastic. I know they wanted Lightning Rod on their team, especially because both of their redirectors are weak to electric. It's still, I think, based on how often the Manectric actually came, or rather didn't come, I think they probably just found it very difficult to use. It's just very lackluster, even though it seems pretty good. It's like, oh, it's relatively fast, and it can do some damage. It has some fire coverage, and you can like Snarl or Thunder Wave or Eerie Impulse and stuff like that. The stats are just not there. It seems better on paper than it is in practice. We had Manectric for a time in Season 3, I think, and that's at least how we felt, so I'm assuming they kind of felt the same way. But also Lycanroc, just it's one of these C tiers that I think maybe should have actually been B tier. And it's for that reason, it's one of the things we talked about in our week 2 stream when we were talking about what are some good mons to pick up. Lycanroc was kind of at the top of our list as far as C tiers go. The other 2 forms, the midnight and midday forms, yeah, those are more fitting for C tier. But Dusk is clearly the best of the 3, and I think it's a great value pick for C tier, and I think it's going to do well for him. I think they probably needed a little bit more in the way of dedicated physical offense as well, because right now it's like they have run physical Nidoqueen, but you typically want to go special. And then aside from that, the only physical attacker is Rillaboom here, unless you want to run like physical Shell Smash Blastoise, which is not typically going to be as good as special.
Yeah. Could run mixed.
Yeah, that's an option. You can run Muddy Water Brick Break, although who'd be stupid enough to do that?
Who would be stupid? Anyway, after that, I also like the Lycanroc Dust, by the way, because I felt that this adds a little bit more speed to their team because of the fact that the Manectric tends to be a little bit more of a support Pokemon. So it's like, it's just a fast support. Whereas Lycanroc actually can put out some offense if it needs to. Definitely can put out some offense. But their team in general is a little bit on the slow end. And when you already have the Liepard that is considered like your fast support Pokemon, you don't really need the Manectric too much. You kind of want something offensive, similar to what the Jurors did when they picked up Aerodactyl. Their team was a little bit more on the slow end. Their team, the Heatran, the Rillaboom, the Blastoise, it's on the slower end of things. A lot of their offense. So I think adding the Lycanroc is going to help them a lot. So. And then after that, we traded out the Cottony for the Marowak. We feel that the Cottony really wasn't doing much we didn't use it at all, and it didn't really look like it was going to be used in our next matchups at all. It's interesting. Cottony is one of those mons that honestly probably should have been brought more, but we just didn't have room for it in our prep. There was very specific things we wanted to do in our prep, and we just found that we didn't have room for it more often than not. Whereas like with Marowak, we felt that it bolsters our Trick Room mode a little bit more. Doesn't rely so hard on Copperajah to come in and just sweep. We can kind of mix and match a little bit. Something that we did last season. We had the Pincurchin, and then we had one other Pokemon.
Slowking and Gourgeist.
And Slowking and Gourgeist. So those 3 Pokemon allowed one. Like I believe we ran Choice Specs Slowking because we weren't really going to use it for Trick Room at all. So we were like, what has good coverage is Slowking. We'll just put specs on and do all right. And it did end up doing pretty good. I think having a little bit of mix up of Trick Room Pokemon more benefits our playstyle. Not so much something standard that you would see across a lot of other teams. I think a lot of other teams are fairly comfortable just bringing a sweeper and a setter. But we like having a little bit more versatility in the Trick Room department.
Yeah. Ground typing is also nice. We sometimes when we needed a ground attack, we found it a little bit difficult to find one that was doing enough damage, and that's not going to be a problem anymore. As long as Marowak, fits with what we want to do that week.
We also had Kanto Marowak, I believe, in our first season of MBL or MBC, so we are comfortable with it. It was not a Dynamax format back then, but the moveset is something that we're pretty comfortable with. I think it's a fantastic Pokemon.
Yeah.
I've used the Alolan version a bunch of times, but the main draw is always just having an item that no other Pokemon can use. So while you're kind of always bound to this item, it's nice because it opens up other slots. Whereas a lot of Pokemon are really rely on the Life Orb or really rely on the Choice Band. So it's other Pokemon can use Life Orb too. No other Pokemon can use Thick Club. So it's while the Marowak obviously relies on Thick Club, at least it's not taking a move slot away from your available team building. So in leagues where you have to prep stuff, just knowing it can kind of work against you, right? It leaves your entire team open up for slots that you can use anywhere else, but also the versatility that you have is a lot less in the item, obviously non-existent, and your opponent kind of knows which particular type you're bringing. So
yeah, when the limitations on your item is actually the main reason the seniors gave for giving it up.
Yeah.
So I think for us that's going to be less of a problem, but I totally understand why they didn't like that much. But yeah, the Cottony, we had some plans for it. It just didn't really it never really made the cut. We just noticed that we needed other slots being filled by other Pokemon almost every time, and the things that we kind of wanted to do with it just didn't seem as good in really any matchup as we thought it would. So just wasn't getting the play that it got last season. Even last season it was tough to bring sometimes, but at least it hit the field a few times. We had a team that fit it better last time, and this time it just didn't really wasn't doing what we wanted it to do.
It's funny, and I would like to talk to the Drillers about this. This is the first time we played a top-heavy team, so to speak, a Pokemon that has 8 usable Mons. When in the past couple of seasons, we've had a lot more balanced teams, similar to how the Drillers are running this year. After we finish our prep, a lot of the times, I'll look at the Mons that we left on the bench, in previous seasons and go, okay, these Mons don't belong here. We don't need these Pokemon. Even though we have 4 viable Pokemon left on the bench, I was very comfortable leaving them on the bench. This season, even though we only have 8 viable Pokemon, or, we did bring Shinx, but for the most part, 8 viable Pokemon, when I see those other 2 on the bench, I'm always like, man, it'd be nice to have one of those 2 here. We left Copperajah on the bench this last week. I was like, man, Copperajah, it'd actually be nice to have, Copperajah in a trick remote just in case we needed it. And in Cottony, I always felt the same way. It was like, man, Cottony would be great here, but we need these other 6 Pokemon that much more.
There were even a couple of times when we left Keldeo out or left Clefable out, which seems kind of insane, but it's probably what needed to happen at the time. So yeah.
So it's just interesting that normally we have a more balanced team where you think, oh, you have 4 viable Pokemon on your bench. You probably look at them and go, man, we really should have brought him. But I felt that the versatility kind of let us be a little bit more confident in what we were bringing.
Yeah.
And I feel that with top heavy teams, it generally just kind of makes it so you do feel like you need to bring those other Pokemon that are viable on your team. Maybe because they're higher tiers as well. So
yeah. Next up, number 6, we've got the Regigeezers dropping the Cobalion and Sandaconda G-Max for the Regigigas, their mascot, and the Klinklang. I have serious concerns about this.
I mean, they have Coughing.
I know, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
The Regigigas mode forces them to put Coughing on the field.
Yeah.
It's not...
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing is... I honestly like 5 of the other Pokemon here. So, if you're gonna bring Coffee and Gigas, then that means that you're limited to basically only bringing the Mime, the Mence, the or the Rillaboom, and the Volcanion. I like the Vikavolt. I think it adds a lot of versatility to their team, and I like the Weavile too, because it allows them to. But I'm guessing now that they got rid of Cobalion, Weavile's on the way out too. Actually, wait, this is the last transaction, isn't it?
Yep.
So they can't even make any moves after this.
I mean, before the wildcard round, we get another go at it. But yeah, Weavile still, it does have a place here. I mean, they brought it without Cobalion this past week, so the Gigas, I just feel like I said, it forces you to put Coughing on the field, which is not ideal, and then it's also kind of tough to use if you're not maxing it. And it's also extremely predictable. Yeah. There was in the VGC league I'm playing in, there was a guy who took Wheezing Gigas, and it was just, he ended up relying on it probably more than he should have. But like every time he brought it out, his opponents were just very prepared for it, and it just never really seemed to work. Maybe the Geezers are going to be better at using it. I don't know. We'll see. I hope that's the case, because I would like to see it succeed. But I think there's a few things that are gonna make it very, very tough to pull off. And then the Kling Clang, I don't think the Kling Clang matters all that much. I get they want to keep their Steel typing in that slot, but having a ground type in that slot also may have still been good, because especially because you get this weird kind of discount Disquake stuff with the Sandaconda and the Vikavolt if you want. But I think Kling Klang's okay. I don't really expect it to do much, especially because its stats are not great. It kind of relies on just shift gear stuff, and its main Steel type move doesn't have super reliable accuracy. It doesn't even get access to Iron Head. So it's a weird mon. It's in C tier for a reason. There's definitely a big part of me that likes Sandaconda better here. But
mainly for ground coverage.
Right. If you want, you want to keep the Steel type, you feel like Steel is more important than ground on your draft, fair enough. I don't think it's a huge deal. It's probably not coming to most matches anyway, but the Regigeezers here is definitely very very important. Very very significant trade.
Big trade.
Yeah.
After that, we have the Mats coming in. They got the Haxorus for the Aegislash. They brought Aegislash, I believe, to one game. Did whatever it needed to do, and now the Haxorus is on their roster again. They had this 2 seasons ago. I thought it was a really good Pokemon on their team last season. I think it looks really good this season. Double Dragon type, but they've been doing all right.
Not the first time they've had Double Dragon.
Yeah,
and the Haxorus is kind of the Vichy specialty too.
Yeah, I want to mention one thing though. As I've been watching their games a little bit, this actually gives them a viable, consistent Dynamax option, because they have no consistent Dynamax. They just Dynamax whatever they want, and it works. It works.
Dude, they Dynamaxed Regidrago when it was in the red.
They did that. Well, I think they've Dynamaxed Regidrago twice.
I know, but one time his HP was literally in the red.
And I think the biggest Dynamax candidate they have is the Blaziken. The Blaziken, I think, has probably seen the most amount of Dynamax.
Well, Kartana's pretty big too for that.
No, it is, but I think we've seen that twice. But yeah, it's all over the place. They're not really consistent on anything. I think that the Haxorus gives them a lot of ability to set up and go. It's something that they did against us in our playoff game a couple of seasons back.
Yeah.
They used Dragon Dance, Dynamax, Haxorus, and when it gave them that option where normally they're just like, oh, we'll just outplay you, we'll outposition you, and we'll get our heavy hitters into a better position than you're going to be able to get yours into, and that's how we're going to beat you. Now it gives them an option to be like, okay, turn 1, we're going to set up for this specific thing, and then just sweep you with it. They kind of can do that with Blaziken, but they just don't. They they love the Swords Dance Blaziken in the mid to late game. They almost never want to open with it. I think Haxorus gives them a lot of versatility in their move pool. With a really good redirector, I think it gives them a lot to work with overall. So I do like the move. Adds a little bit more to their threats, and the Aegis Slash was just kind of there anyway. So it's just an up.
Yeah. I mean, they still have Ghost and Steel elsewhere on their draft anyway, so it's, they're also now just doubling up on a different type in the Dragon type here, but it seems like something that they're comfortable using, so and especially since one of the Dragon types happens to be Haxorus, so I guess Vishy likes his Dragon types.
He does like his Dragon types indeed, so
I think it's a good trade for them, especially considering it's a comfort pick, so and Haxorus, I think, is good value for B tier.
Yeah.
Definitely a good pick.
It's a 145 attack stat?
147.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have the Drillers, swapped out Armaldo for Pikachu.
Trigo and Haxorus S tier, yes. We'll keep that in mind for next time.
Yeah, we'll definitely rank them there. The Armaldo wasn't doing so much anyway. I mean, they kind of brought it against us, but even then, it just kind of didn't really do much.
Did they draft that just for us?
Maybe. I mean,
just to kill Mew?
Yeah, probably. We didn't even use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pikachu gives them another redirector, gives them Lightning Rod support for their 2 water types that they have here. Decent option for like a Shell Smash Blastoise. So
especially next to Lightning Rod.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
So I think overall, decent pick. Not as good as the Aerodactyl last transaction period. I think that Aerodactyl really, it's going to make them so tough to deal with. It's made their team already a lot better. Even though it literally just saw the lead. Just when you're prepping against it, now you have to do so much more.
Yeah.
But I think it's a solid pick. They have 2 D tier picks that C tiers. Yeah. They have 2 C tiers that in general are just very well rounded and can be pretty much brought to almost any matchup. I think that's really significant. The Fungus we saw last week did really well. Was for sure, was huge for them. And when you're able to have a lot of really, really good Pokemon on your team, it allows you to just leave Rotom-Mow on the bench, because you're comfortable with the Surf Fetched, you're comfortable with, the Blastoise, the Arcanine stuff. You can leave Mimikyu or Rotom or any of these on the bench because you have other good Pokemon there that can supplement them. So their team's looking real strong. Just in general, they've been playing really well, and their prep has just been really, really well. So
for sure, yeah. I like the Pikachu in general here. It's I don't think the Armaldo was doing too much because they didn't really have a way to set up rain anyway, and these 2 C tier slots were filled out by Armaldo and Exploud earlier in the season, and they just seemed kind of out of place. They just seemed like they weren't really doing anything. So I like that they traded for a couple of support mons down here that feel a little bit better, and
they do. They feel a lot better than if you were to say.
They fill a role. The other 2 didn't really fill a role.
And
everything on this team now, like it feels like I know what that's doing here.
And they were already doing well with that, with the composition that they have. So just upgrade moves here, especially last transaction period with the Fungus and with the Aerodactyl.
Yeah. Wrapping one for this season, but whoa, what the fuck? Okay, well I guess OBS just let us know if anything weird just happened, because OBS just like disconnected and then reconnected. So if something weird happened, let us know. Although I guess that's not too helpful if like you can't hear me right now, but hopefully you'll let us know if that's the case. So
all right,
moving on.
The power rankings they have been the quickest thing these last couple of days, just because there hasn't really been much movement.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement here. It's just little bits of movement here and there. So, New England Patrats are moving down after taking a loss, partially because the Porygons ended up moving up because they took their first win. Patrats, I feel like I think they're more how should I say this? I think the Porygons are more deserving of the 17 than the Patrats are, even though they have the same record, just because the Patrats have not been they really haven't been very consistent. And they've gotten 6-0 twice. That's not good. So there are times when they've played well, like especially against the Mats. But there's also times where they just completely fall apart.
Yeah.
The Porygons, at least, like there's definitely some clear mistakes that they make in a lot of their matches. You know, we've been over that. But at least they haven't had games like that, let alone two of them. Yeah. And I feel like the Raiders have been doing well enough that even though they got beat by the Porygons, I don't think, considering how well these two teams have been doing, they have the same record now. I don't think the Porygons are doing well enough to be placed above the Raiders. So the Raiders are staying where they are, especially if the game was as hard. Because if the Porygons just won due to a bunch of luck, then wouldn't really be fitting to put them above.
It's
the Raiders,
also tough to say what the Porygons lost due to, because we weren't there. So
yeah,
that's
really just it's just speculation.
If we're just being candid too, there's a little bit of, for lack of a better term, beef between these two particular teams.
That's true.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody's going to take a loss particularly well, and even if there's a little bit of hacks, I think your default is going to just lean to just being like, we got hacked out because we don't like those guys, whatever it is. So,
but it's also hard to say.
It's tough to tell because we don't have the replay.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I agree. I think the Raiders staying in the spot for right now. I mean, the Porygons, look, they got a win. That's great. You need a win to get started at the very least. But, one win isn't gonna vault you up 3 slots. It's just not, unfortunately. So the Raiders, they're gonna stay. After a close game, they shouldn't have forfeit. Tell you that.
Yep.
But,
Oh, speaking of which, I meant to mention this as well. We saw this happen, I think, with the spammers once before, when they didn't let the clock just go down, and they ended up clicking a move at the end when they should have just let the game end. They lost them on unnecessarily. Same thing happened with the Bulus and the Mats. The clock, the move timer could have just gone down, and then the game timer would have gone to 0, and the game would have ended. They ended up clicking, the Bulus ended up clicking a move, and the Blaziken got a free KO. So they lost the differential point again for no reason. So you guys have to remember, if the game timer hits 0 before you input your move, there will not be an extra turn that plays out. It just stops right there. Mm-hmm. So keep in mind, make sure to not lose them on unnecessarily. Like we said a lot last season, every kill matters.
Yeah. And Goomer says put them both at 16.5. Essentially, that's what they're at.
Kind of.
Yeah. The Raiders didn't move at all, and the Porygons moved up 1. So that's more or less what it is.
Moving on to 15, the Pixies, they did have a bye, I believe. We moved them down mostly because we really liked how the Spammers played, and they picked up their first win, so we felt it was... maybe we were kind of looking for an opportunity to boost them up a little bit, but they did really well, and even though it was a very, very close game, came down to time and HP percentage, we feel that they are deserving of a little bump up there. And then we have the Jurors at number 12 and the Bulus at 13. The Bulus, they took a loss here, but it wasn't like a super hard loss. Feels a little bit weird moving them down here, but it's more that we wanted to move the Jurors up after they played the kind of game that they played.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned, it was basically just they played the early and the mid game very, very well, and it really just came down to 2 double protects that kept them from taking that W. Rarely do we get a game where it's so clear that the roles in one team's favor just decided the game, but this is one of those times.
Yeah. So tough for them, tough for the Bulus. These guys, honestly, I feel that these 12 through 15, just in general, they're teams that have shown sparks, but they're just not able to put it together consistently. So it's a little bit rough, especially when we're already this late into the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true of 12 through 14 here for sure. Yeah.
All right. I won't argue with the Pixies. I think they've been doing all right, and I think that they had such a top-heavy draft, and they're actually one of the teams that was able to turn it around a little bit. We'll see how it turns out, but...
Yeah, I mostly just don't group them in with the other 3 because I felt that they haven't been as consistent in their
not
play,
as
their
much
prep,
as the other 3. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, so 6 through 11, the Potatoes had a bye this week, so they basically just stayed the same. Mudkips took a loss to us. They ended up moving down from the 9th spot. They are now 2-5, right?
3-4.
3-5. Jeez, I keep messing
3-4.
3-4.
That hasn't even been 8 weeks yet. How are they 3-5?
They're 3-4. They are slowly kind of working their way out of the early season funk. They just unfortunately, not trying to say it, but we were one of the tougher teams that was going to be on their schedule regardless. We had talked about that beforehand. We were really excited about getting this finals rematch going. So it just so happened that their finals rematch was either going to, put them a game over 500 or put them a game below 500. So, they ended up losing. Yeah, so that's just kind of the way that it's going to work out, unfortunately. Seniors getting the win, beat one of the better teams in the league, the Delibirds. We kind of felt that this was around what they can beat. They can beat more like the high mid-tier teams like the Delibirds who are pretty much going to be playoff teams essentially. The seniors we feel have the ability and the team composition to kind of make a push past those teams and beat them. We haven't seen that consistently from them this season, but they're not doing bad. They're in the middle of the pack. They can still work their way up. It's kind of a sadistic senior special, right? Like we always see like amazing flashes from them, and they barely squeak in the playoffs, and they do really well in playoffs, and they for the most part always play well. So leave them here at 9. As long as they're in the playoff hunt, they'll be okay. They'll squeak in. That's what they do. The Geezers now 3-3 out of 500 record. They're moving down a spot. I don't think that this is indicative too much of their team in general. They beat, okay teams. But I do think that, we don't want to start seeing a slip like this. Just like how the seniors are one of those teams that barely squeaks into the playoffs. One of the things that we saw from David the season before was they started off very strong. I believe him and Mira started off 6-0. And then they ended up losing the last 4 games of the season. They barely snuck in, and then they lost in the first round. So it's something that I don't think we don't want to see that become a trend from Dave, even though we have seen it. It's starting to look like it's happening again. I think it's just a small slip up.
We still have to see how it plays out.
Exactly. And who knows how these transactions are going to play too. So, it's just one of those things.
I am worried, though.
I mean... Hey, we were worried when we were 0-2,
No, I mean, I'm worried about the transactions.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, just in general, because you're right. When you make a big transaction like that, and you're at a crossroads in your season of where it's like, okay, are we either gonna tank the rest of this, or are we gonna really storm back? To make a big transaction and a big team change like that is a lot bigger of a move than we are giving them credit for,
Yeah.
So I do think that that's fair to question the transaction, and I think that overall they should be reevaluating their team a little bit and reevaluating their play and their season. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be out of it. They're going to be right there in the thick of it. They just need to kind of get their head back on their shoulders. They're good enough players to do that. So the Delibirds moving down one spot. That's 2 losses in a row, I believe. They started off 4-0. They're now 4-2. Hey, it happens. They're going to still stay in it. It's not necessarily that they're a bad team. It's just that they're trending downwards right now. They can just as easily start trending upwards. 4-2 is still really good, especially in the division that they're in, because I believe it's just us at this point. So a lot of the other teams are kind of like fighting in the mid range, because I believe the seniors are in there at 3-3. What's it called? The
Seniors are 3-4.
3-4. The potatoes are 3-4.
2-4.
2-4. Jeez, I'm just getting all these records mixed up now. But either way, what I'm saying is that these are the teams that are below them right now, including the Mudkips, and they have a game or two ahead of them. So they should be all right. Just win out the last couple of games, and you'll be locked into a spot. So nothing too much out of the Delibirds. They're at 7.
It's also worth mentioning, though. I mean, since you said, just win out the rest of your games and you'll be fine. It's going to be hard for them to do because their later season schedule is way harder than their early season schedule.
Let's pull it up. See, I mean, Discord works properly now. Yeah.
Thank God for the wired connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going into week 8, they're playing the Wailords. Going into week 9, they're playing us. Going into... Oh, no, week 9, they are playing the Drillers. Then week 10, they're playing us. Those are going to be three hard games right in a row.
Cross division.
And then, for the cross division,
is the Geezers.
Oh, yeah. They don't have any easy games left.
Yeah, their easy games are gone. That doesn't necessarily mean that, because they've already shown that they can prep well, they can build well. But, yeah, their easy games are gone. But, hey, pull out a couple of those. If you can win 2 of those 4, that's going to leave you at, 6-4? That should,
You should be fine with 6-4.
You should be okay, yeah. I would think so.
Yeah.
And then we have the Wailords dropping down 2 spots. So, I mean, at this point, it's disappointing because they lost one of their games to forfeit. It was did it end up getting recorded as a double forfeit loss?
Yes.
Okay. So it got recorded as a double forfeit loss. It puts them into a tough spot, unfortunately. And then plus they take another loss after that. It sets them back a little bit. So, while they still are a top team, they're just outside the top 5 for right now. So, I think overall they're going to be one of the better teams that you're going to have to go against. But yeah.
Yeah.
And Goomer says, we face the Burnouts, so debatable. First off, we're going to put money on that because you weaseled your way out of this one. Second off, that's still 1 out of 4 games. You're going to need to pull 2 of those out. So you're still going up against, one of the better. You're going up against an undefeated team, and you're going against the Wailords. Those are going to be tough games, including the Geezers as well, who are put into a position at this point to where they're also going to be trying to win the last few of their games. So there's going to be a lot of tough competitions in general in that schedule. Even if you pull us out, and you're able to take that win, you still need another one. You still need to find another one out of those 3. So
also, not everybody gets to beat the reigning champs. So
no. Only
pump the brakes.
Only the commissioner of the league, because we don't want to get kicked out, and then our friends that one time because they stopped talking to us for a little while after last season when we beat them. And it got awkward, so we just
they never even shaved their mustaches.
It's okay. It happens. Okay, so now top 5.
Top 5. Just as a little addendum. We're at 0 right now, so I hope people can hear this. I'm going to put 50 pesos on that match against the Delibirds.
$50 is my floor too. Like, why do people always get scared? I know, I'm saying, because when I go, $50, like, come on, guys. Like, I want to actually have some excitement here. Isn't $5 ain't nothing? I don't care about taking $5 from you. I ain't gonna do nothing with that $5. I can't even buy myself a 6-pack and celebrate. Okay, anyway.
So moving on. Who's number 5?
Where we belong. Where we belong. For the record, us doesn't click, and the Wailords, we were really kind of trying to figure out exactly where we were going to put them. We actually ended up asking a bunch of different people to kind of order them for us.
Yeah.
This is the way that it got ordered.
Yeah. I felt like we had to move the Wailords down at least 1 spot. I started off thinking that we would be 6.
Yeah, I did too.
Wailords still be 5. They had to move down at somehow we ended up moving them down 2 instead of 1. And I didn't really feel comfortable putting us above Doesn't Click. I think moving us all the way to 4 would be a bit much.
Moving up 3 spots is kind of the same way. I not all the way, but yeah, I mean, it's a little bit weird.
Honestly, I went into this feeling like out of those 3 teams, Doesn't Click, us, and the Wailords, I don't really feel like any of us fit at number 4.
Yeah.
But somebody has to be there.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way to put it.
Yeah. And especially because Doesn't Click was number 5 last time, and they had that really weird win. Like, I didn't want to move them up after that.
Move them up for a game that missed. Yeah. And the Wailords, the Wailords have a late season bye, so they have an extra game. They also have a better differential and less losses.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like we have to take that into account as well. We don't know how another thing too is like the seniors and the Wailords game probably would have been. It honestly probably would have been a toss up. It would like I know everybody was going off with the seniors there because the seniors haven't been doing so hot lately, but being in a league with the seniors for the last 3 seasons has taught me one thing: they can win any game that you put them into.
Yeah.
Absolutely any game.
Yep.
Some weeks they just wake up feeling like they're the best players on the planet, and they play like it, and so they can beat any of these teams. So we don't know if the Wailords would have woken up on the same day as the seniors would have. So. It's a little bit rough. We really don't know how it would have played out. Both teams ended up with the loss. It kind of marred how we were going to put everything because no team took a win in that one.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what a result of it was too, is because both teams kind of ended with a loss. It puts it into flux in how weird stuff gets. But we end up with the 5 slot here. We're in the 2 seed right now for Sword Division. So I mean
that has a lot to do with it. Yeah,
that kind of has to be worth something. Just in that our differential is very good. The 2 games that we have lost, we've lost to timer with win conditions still available to us.
Especially in our game against the Drillers.
Yes, especially against our game against the Drillers. So it's just one of those things. While we're thrilled about it, we think that there's a little bit more work to be done to really get us moved into this top 5 slot.
Yeah. But at the same time, we had a rough start.
Yeah.
And we've been climbing back up. We took 2 losses and then we got that first W, been going up ever since.
Yeah. So. All right. I think that explains Doesn't Click. You want to take Doesn't Click?
Yeah, I think we sort of covered them already. Like, it's a little bit weird moving them up here, but like they're still 5-2. They're still a great team. They did get a win. It was a weird one because it was they by their own admission they got out prepped and outplayed, and won due to some luck. But it's still.
They got that win. It's the win's under their collar.
Right, and it's not like. It would have felt weird moving them down too.
Yeah.
It's just weird because I don't feel like any of us deserve the 4. Yeah,
because we can't have a 3-3 team at 4.
Right.
We don't want to move us up 4 slots.
Yeah.
Because even like the 3 is a lot. And we don't want to move Doesn't Click down. Yeah, it's tough. And at the end of the day, we could really just kind of solidify this by going, this is Doesn't Click. They're still a 2-time champion team. They have shown championship caliber throughout this whole season. They're still sitting at a very respectable above 500 record. They're 5-2 right now. So 5-2. I've been getting all the records wrong. Did I finally get one right there? 5-2.
Yep.
Okay. Jesus. 5-2 right now. So yeah, even if they were lost, they're still 4-3. They're still probably going to end up in the That's still a good record there. So, for Doesn't Click, I do feel, it is a little bit weird, but hey, they deserve it. They're good enough to be put at number 4, even if they haven't played. Even if they didn't play well last week.
They're more fitting at number 4 than we are, or that the Wailords
agreed.
are. So yeah. Agreed. All right, number 3. Got the Mats again. Do you remember their record?
They've lost one game.
How many have they won?
They've lost one. I think they 6. Are they 6-1?
There you go.
Yeah,
it's not that hard. Yeah, these last ones are pretty straightforward. There's not much to say when teams are sticking to the same spot. They've been doing good. They took another good win. They played the match well. Yeah, they're staying up here at number 3. They just it's hard to move them up when they've taken a loss and these next 2 teams have not.
These top 3 teams, I feel, have already solidified themselves in the league.
Yeah. Oh, it's also worth mentioning, speaking of solidifying themselves, it's worth mentioning that Team Pussy and the Mats have now locked into playoffs. Yeah. The bottom 3 teams in Shield Division mathematically cannot overtake them. So if they lose all the rest of their games with a -6 differential, they are still at least in the wild card round.
Cool. Well, congrats to them, both of them, honestly. Both the Mats and Team Pussy have been playing amazing lately. Yeah. Just dominant play, really good sets overall. And then the Sword Division leader right now, the SoCal Cheat Drillers, they've been playing amazing as well. They're solidifying themselves as the top team, one of the top teams in the league for sure.
They are locking playoffs after one more win as well.
Who do they play this week? Let's see. The Raiders. So
okay,
that's going to be a tough win for the Raiders. The Raiders only have 1 win so far, and the Cheat Drillers haven't dropped any. So I know for a fact that they're looking to sew up their playoff spot with a win this week.
Yep.
Definitely. But yeah, they've been playing amazing, honestly. Team, because we knew that they had whatever that was. Okay, we knew that they had 2 really good players. We knew that they were really good team builders, that they knew how to prep, that they knew that how to make certain decisions in game. They just were overall very solid players, and they just didn't come to fruition last season for whatever reason. We think that it has more to do with the team comp that they drafted, but this season they completely turned a whole new leaf. They have the most balanced draft in the league right now. They are absolutely just using it to their advantage. They bring in different stuff all the time.
Great transactions.
Continuing to build off of that with really good transactions on a week-to-week basis. I'm really, really impressed by them. As much as I am with the Mats, as much as I am with Team Pussy, I think these 3 teams have really shown, like, this far into the season, if you're 7 weeks in and you still haven't lost a game, like, you're the real deal. Even when we were talking about Dave last 2 seasons ago, how they went 6-0, they still made it into playoffs and they still had a really good game. It messed them up because they had to go up against the top seeded Team Pussy, who had literally only dropped 1 game throughout the entire season.
And then ended up winning.
It all. So can't really fault them for if they just happen to go into the first round against them, But they showed that they had a really good team as well, and yeah, if you're at this point, you're in the top 3, you have 6 wins under your name, you're definitely solidifying yourself as the top one of the top teams. So the Drillers they played really good against the top team as well in the Wailords.
I will also say, with that game, they did play really well, but I think if Manding win there, I'd actually be comfortable moving them up to number 1.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to say they played poorly, because they didn't. I was actually really impressed with the way they played and prepped. I mean, there's a reason I'm putting the Arcanine up here. I really, really like the Arcanine, especially in just the particular Arcanine they brought in this matchup. But I think that if their game against the Wailords, let's say, did not go to time, and if they were able to,
they just won.
Right, and if they were able to deal with the Bronzong a little bit more handily, because the crit on the Bronzong just made things a lot easier for them, I think they still absolutely had a good shot of winning, even if the Bronzong got another Trick Room up, because I think they would have been able to stall it out really well. Yeah, absolutely they did. And they could just use the same resources that they used to stall out the first one. And honestly, after the second Trick Room expired, like, I wouldn't really expect them to max the Spider, so I actually think that the Wailords might not have even had enough time to get 3 max moves off if they had managed to set up another Trick Room. So I still think the Drillers have a good chance of winning there. But my main point is that if they were able to win not off of timer, and they were able to win convincingly without needing that crit, if they played differently and were able to still knock out the Bronzong, or maybe play through Trick Room and come back with like a big offensive mode or something like that. If it was a more commanding win, I'd be comfortable moving them to 1. So they're almost there. They're on the cusp of passing Team Pussy. If they get if they get some really commanding wins, maybe Team Pussy falters a little bit. Even if Team Pussy keeps winning, there's still a chance for the 1 and 2 to swap here.
Well, that's the problem. We'll go ahead and go into the number 1. That's the problem I feel with what's going on with Team Pussy is not even that the Drillers are playing badly. It's just that every time the Drillers win with an A- game, Team Pussy seems to win with like an A+ game. It's like, well, we can't. They had a great game. Like, we can't change that. The game they had against the Jurors, it was a great game. A couple weeks back. We couldn't really, even though the Drillers won and they beat a team pretty good. Team Pussy just made it so it's like, well, we can't really change it past that. Mm-hmm. This was the opportunity that they had really to go, hey, we're not playing a lower tier team. We're playing a playoff team, and we beat them handily. And while you beat your team handily, that's cool. We played a playoff team.
Yeah, but at the same time, Team Pussy's had games against top tier teams too. They've beaten Doesn't Click. Mm-hmm. They have not played the Mats yet. That'll be a good game.
They played the Geezers and they beat them. Yeah. So yeah, they've played some. They played their share of top tier teams as well. So yeah, it's tough. They've shown the championship caliber that we've been talking about. They're bringing good stuff week to week, and they're just making sure that they're constantly in a good position to just play the game out and win. Very methodical is like really the only way that I can really talk about their games. Is just everything that they are choosing to do just seems like very deliberate. They're almost even taking KOs. They're like, yeah, let that go down. We need to get this in for free anyway. Like, just really good play overall. So, yeah, we talk about Team Pussy and how good they are so much. This week they played against the Patrats. They did what they needed to do against the Patrats. I mean, what more?
Yeah, there's not much to say about that one.
What more can we say?
Yeah. All right. So there's your Week 7 power rankings. We've got the Patrats at 18, Porygons at 17, swapping from last week. Raiders staying where they are at 16. Pixies moving down only because we needed to move the Spammers up for their win this week. Bulus moving down, kind of the same deal, even though they did they did take a loss. We more just needed to move the Jurors up for how they played this past week. Potatoes had a bye. They're not moving. Mudkips took a loss against us, moving down 1. Seniors taking a win off of the Delibirds, moving up 1. We got the Geezers and Delibirds. Good teams, each taking a loss after a close game. They're each moving down 1 slot. Wailords falling out of the top 5, moving down from 4 down to 6. Us, the Amoonguss Burnouts, winning our finals rematch, moving up into the top 5 for the first time this season. Did we put ourselves in the top 5 like in week 0?
Yeah, but those are useless.
Yeah, this is kind of useless too. It's only like it's the eighth most useless. Yeah. Then we got Doesn't Click taking a questionable win, but they're still a great team, moving up to number 4. Mm-hmm. Matt's still at number 3, Driller's still at number 2, and Team Pussy's still at number 1. So that's going to be your Week 7 power rankings. Moving on to Week 8. Sword Division. First match, we got the Potatoes against the Porygons. This one's pretty straightforward. Potatoes have just been doing a lot better. We expect the trends of each team to continue more or less. So we're taking pretty Potatoes.
We try not to choose sleepers here. We're just going with the trends. If you're wondering how the league is going, right now, Delibirds versus the Wailords. This one was a little bit tougher for us as well because both teams have been doing pretty good, but they're both on losing streaks right now. So that's something that needs to be taken into account. But we feel that the Wailords are going to want to get out of this slump. So we're choosing the Wailords over the Delibirds here. Then we got us over the Seniors, obviously. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but like we're also gonna win. So
Yeah, that's true.
And then we got the Drillers over the Raiders. Same kind of thing as the Potatoes and Porygons. Only this is
A lot more pronounced.
Yeah, it's more clear because the Drillers are one of the top teams. They still have yet to take a loss, and the Raiders have been struggling. So
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear who the favorite is here.
Geezers and the Bulus. This one was really tough for us as well. The Bulus seem to be on a little bit more of an upward trend here, even though they have taken a couple losses. They just have been playing well. The Geezers obviously on a downward trend, but we're giving it to the Geezers here mainly because while the Bulus have been playing well, they have a loss that they only have one win that they really had to play for. Not saying that forfeit wins are bad or anything like that. We have a forfeit win, but when that's really the only success that we can look back and go like, okay, this is the success that you've had, and all the other ones are just our losses. It kind of sways us to go with the team that has just seen more success. So even though they're kind of trending in the same place right now, they're ending up in the same places right now. That we are choosing the Geezers over the Bulus.
There's still a part of me to pick the Bulus here, which may seem a little bit weird when you look at their records, and also, like you mentioned, there's only one win that the Bulus actually had to battle for. I think the Bulus as a team, they just seem a little bit more present and coherent right now. Maybe that's just kind of the losing streak and the Geezers coming out, but that's how it feels to me. And I'm also I also find the Regigeezers transaction a little bit questionable. So I suspect that
feel that they've played against higher quality teams and not just higher quality teams, but they've played better against higher quality teams. Is what?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And this is really the first game that we're going to get to see with this kind of trifecta of these teams that like we know are good but haven't been picking up as many wins as they probably should. Of course, I'm talking about the Jurors and the Spammers and the Bulus. Bulus and Spammers got matched up against each other, but they didn't actually play the game. So this is the first one that we're actually going to get to see out of those three. And then the Jurors and the Bulus have yet to play each other as well. So that one is still coming. It's gonna be a really interesting one to watch.
Yeah. And then after that, the Pixies versus Team Pussy. Team Pussy, one of the best teams in the league. We have them number one at the power rankings. Doesn't really matter who they were going to play against. It just so happened that they happened to play against one of the teams that's in the double digits in the power rankings. So we're choosing Team Pussy to beat the Platinum Pixies. Although you never know, Palkia may do something.
Yeah, let's see how they do against Palkia.
Yeah. Did Team Pussy win with... No, that was Doesn't Click. Doesn't Click won with Palkia, right?
Yes. Yep. Yep, that should do it. And the buys for Sword Division are buy team is the Mediocre Mudkips, and for Shield it's going to be the Mats. So they're going to take a well-deserved week off.
Yep.
So that should do it from us, right?
Yeah, we're all set.
Jesus Christ, it's been 2 hours. I am hungry. I need to go make dinner.
All right, well, at least we're all done here. So.
Yep.
Okay, guys, we'll see you later, and we'll see you week 9.
Thank God we didn't have any connection problems.
Maybe, who knows?
There were some minor ones here and there, but like not really. Not like last time. Last week was a fucking shit show. But worked out much better, so thank you, Hector, for helping us